order and ask for a motion to go into executive session on a student personnel matter.
Second.
To let people know that we'll still be here, we hope that we'll be back within a half an hour. So if the board members would go to the conference room, that would be good.
No, we didn't.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you for your patience. We are fortunate this evening to have a member of the community who has long been involved in the health of the community, and Dr. Dick Dundas, who has been extremely active, as most of you know, through the clinic and other things. He is here this evening to talk about oral health of our schools. So please welcome Dick Dundas, Dr. Dick Dundas. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, Dick, coming up and speaking into the microphone, we appreciate it.
Did we call the meeting back to order? No. We called the meeting back to order after the executive session.
Okay, I keep on, do I have to call the meeting back to order?
Yeah, we move to come out of executive session.
Okay, well, back
Second.
to order. All in
Yep.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Thank you. Keep me honest, people.
Otherwise, we're still in executive session.
Well, thank you.
So I'm not Dick Dundas, but I'm Rory Price. I'm the coordinator of the Bennington Oral Health Coalition, and we'll hear from Dr. Dundas in just a second. So I'm the coordinator of the Oral Health Coalition, and Dr. Dundas is an executive member and also the medical director of the Bennington Free Clinic. And we're here tonight to talk to you about the dental health of MAU students and the community at large, what we've done in the schools and what we're hoping to do in the future.
Excuse me just for a minute. Can everybody hear clearly?
It may not be on.
Yeah, could you turn it up just a bit? How do we?
How do I turn it up?
I don't know, that's microphones for the television,
Okay,
not
I
for
can
the
I'll
room.
project more.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm having a little trouble hearing. I don't
Okay.
think my ears are bad. Okay.
So to introduce the Oral Health Coalition, just to give you a little bit of background, it was founded after the Vermont Office of Rural Development helped to organize several committees in Bennington in 2012 to deal with various issues in Bennington. One of those committees was called the Poverty Working Group, and a subcommittee formed to address oral health, which over time has morphed into the Bennington Oral Health Coalition, which exists today. Oral health was really a natural subject for the Poverty Working Group to discuss. I'm sure you're all aware of the socioeconomic challenges that Bennington residents face and poverty's impact on oral health. From self-esteem to the ability to learn and eat, to full system health and employability, oral health impacts many aspects of a person's life. And here in Bennington, we see exceptionally poor oral health at all age levels, which Dr. Dundas will delve into in just a couple seconds. The Oral Health Coalition sought to help people living in poverty to improve their oral health. The initial way that we looked to do this was through community water fluoridation. This was voted down in 2015, so we did a little bit of restructuring to kind of figure out how we were going to improve oral health without that. So since then, we've been working on other preventative measures, including education, the disbursement of oral hygiene tools, and much more. And the coalition is basically just a grassroots effort. We currently have 19 members from many different sectors around town, including the Department of Health, the community, UCS, dentists and doctors, hygienists, health education, and human services. We have over 400 oral health champions who are committed to supporting our work and our mission. It would be great if some of you would become champions as well. But I'll let Dr. Dundas talk a little bit more in detail about the work that we've done.
Thank you.
So now I have to put this back on. Just tilt it?
Yep.
Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. So I have a handout here. My teachers always gave me handouts, so I'll give half to Tim. And the other half, start here. So I'll try to get through this within 2 or 3 hours. Basically, I don't know what I'm doing on an oral health commission because I was a physician, not a dentist. But I want to talk to you some about bad teeth. I'll just kind of call all dental problems, bad teeth. For simplicity, we all know that bad teeth results in ill health, infection, pain. That keeps kids from going to school, and it keeps kids from performing well in the classroom if they get to school. There are also these social factors that we have to realize, that such as self-image and finding a job when you get out of high school. Important things. So I wanted to tell you some of the evidence of why Bennington has bad teeth. What is the evidence that Bennington has teeth worse than the rest of the state, for example? So in 2014, the State Department of Health did a survey, and they do this regularly, approximately every 3 years. I think there's another one coming up soon, but 2014 was the last one. What they do is look at kindergartners and third graders, and 2 schools in Bennington were chosen, and also Shaftesbury. And the findings were that those 3 schools in Bennington County had among the worst teeth in the entire state. So the tragedy of bad teeth continues on to the Mount Anthony Union District, but Rory's going to speak more about that. However, another way of looking at our problem is to look at missing teeth. Apparently there's somebody in state government who is a tooth counter, and I bet he's paid better than most of you. Anyway, this has been done throughout the state, and in Bennington, adults 18 to 64 have a significantly higher absence of teeth than does the rest of the state. So we're at the bottom of the barrel from the point of view of a kindergarten kid, and we're at the bottom of the barrel from the point of view of an adult in the community. So if you start out with bad teeth as a kindergartner, you're probably going to be missing teeth later in life. The handout that I gave you, just to switch gears, the handout that I gave you is kind of a timeline of our involvement with Mount Anthony Union High School and middle school. Middle school, actually. It's actually all of the middle school. And we call it, I kind of think of it as, what have we done for you lately? And it's all spelled out there. But if you look at the starred ones, I wanted to just go through those with you because some of you may not be aware. We started out in 2015, and we engaged the services of a supervising dentist, and we got a hygienist, a dental hygienist, to work pro bono at the middle school. We did screenings both last year and this year that is just finished, I mean. We reopened the dental suite at the middle school. The chair and equipment had not been used for 4 or 5 years. From our screening, we contacted parents of the students who needed more attention. This was a difficult thing, but we did our best to try, made multiple phone calls. We made a number of classroom presentations, and we secured the services along with the Department of Health for a tooth tutor and a dental care manager. The tooth tutor is solely at the middle school, and the dental care manager splits time between the 2 schools. And we did that at no cost to the, well, I guess you guys don't pay the bills, but to the taxpayers here of Bennington. We secured the funding through what's called an MAC grant, which stands for Medicaid Administrative Claiming. And it's a grant whereby if you had a doctor that worked in one of the schools, you could pay him with Medicaid funds, and the same applies for a dental hygienist or a tooth tutor or many other medically related titles. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Rory, who's going to talk about the surveys that we did.
Okay, so I just gave you a handout that gives a visual for some of the statistics that I'll be talking about. In 2015, the Oral Health Coalition organized visual dental screenings for all middle school students. And what that means is the student would just come in, open their mouth, the hygienist takes a quick look and sort of grades how the teeth look, identifies any issues that need to be addressed, and then sends the child on their way. So the whole process takes about 1 minute per student. The findings from this initial screening are detailed at the top of the page. The screening for that year was paired with visual and hearing screenings, so it was sort of a one-stop shop for all the students to have their health examined. So as you can see, 520 students were screened. 76 7th and 8th graders were in need of a professional dental cleaning. 26 students were in need of immediate care, and 83 needed further evaluation by a dental professional. The rest had no immediate need, but of course were still recommended to continue with their regular cleanings. So after this screening, we needed to follow up with the students to connect them to a dental home. The Oral Health Coalition helped to do this and used a lot of volunteer time to follow up with parents and guardians and students to try to make sure that all their needs were met. We realized that that was a pretty heavy lift and that a dedicated employee would be more effective at following up on these screenings, and Kendra Stratton was hired as a tooth tutor. So her job is to identify students who are in need of dental care and to work with the student and their guardian to find a dental home, which just means a dentist that they go to regularly and are comfortable seeing. Kendra also does clinical work at the school, cleanings, and is supervised by the Carmack Dental Practice. As Dr. Dundas mentioned, her position is paid for by MAC money. At the beginning of this year, Terry Hirsch was hired as a dental case manager, both to help Kendra at the middle school and to sort of lay the groundwork at the high school for a dental program. Together at the middle school, the two of them created a target group. So rather than screening 100% of the student body this year, we did some front-end work and sort of analyzed which students were most likely to need care. So gathering health histories, calling parents, et cetera, to try to see who is most at risk. And 180 students were identified in this way, and a screening was scheduled in April. There's a little bit of a logistical misstep, which we've talked through, and we have found a solution for next year. Because the dental screening this year wasn't paired with anything else, it was a little hard to get the students to be super excited about getting their teeth screened. So the turnout wasn't exactly as we hoped, but we did screen 53 students, and a lot of them had overwhelming issues that did need to be addressed. We saw broken teeth, we saw active infections, and you can see there that 40 of the 53 students showed signs of gingivitis, which is an early form of gum disease. So the oral health of students all across the board in Bennington is pretty deplorable. Children who are eligible for receiving services have access to care issues. And for Bennington area children in 2014, a quarter of Medicaid-eligible children 6 to 18 years old were treated for extractions, endodontics, and restorations. So compared to the rest of the state, a higher percentage of these children were treated in a hospital setting with an average cost of $3,700. So it can seem a little overwhelming at times, but the efforts that the Oral Health Coalition and the SVSU have been taking, I think, will create positive results. Kendra and Terry have made great strides in connecting students to dentists, providing cleanings, education, and maybe most importantly, opening up a dialogue with parents and students about the profound impact that oral health can have on your general health and on your life. We're in the midst of working with Mr. Barnes and Mrs. Dodge at the high school to have a school-wide dental screening in August when students come for yearbook photos and locker assignments. And I think this will be a really good launching point for the dental case manager to make some great strides in the high school and to make sure that all students are graduating with an intact smile. Dr. Dundas, the rest of the Oral Health Coalition, and I are hoping that the SVSU and your board in particular will continue to be supportive. And I have been in talks with Laura Boudreau about including oral health in the curriculum, and we're definitely hopeful that the MAC funding will continue for Terry and Kendra's positions. So thanks for listening to us tonight. I'll turn it over to Dr. Dundas one more time. You can finish up.
Hello again. Basically, the reason we came is that we want to inspire you to help us. And to do that, I wanted to tie together 4 concepts. One is that there are limitations to educational efforts that require intensive labor. We've found that out. We've done a number of classroom programs throughout the system, and it's very labor intensive for us, frankly, because we're all volunteers and we have other lives. There's also a limitation on an attempt to change anyone's behavior. The third thing is that Bennington's level of poverty is pretty astounding. And the fourth thing is preventive dentistry and how we need to improve oral health before teeth start to decay. So you might think that oral health is kind of a small problem. It can be ignored, and it has been ignored in the community. We had a community vote for fluoridation of our community water system back in 1950. We just completed our 6th such effort in 2015. So there's a lot of history here, and we've kind of ignored the problem. But when you think of it, it's really an important problem, and if it becomes a community effort, then things can get better. It's something that can be improved. So I wanted to start or continue by telling you an anecdote. When we lost the vote for community water fluoridation in March of 2015, our opponents said that we just needed to educate our population to take better care of their teeth. Simple. But we didn't think it was simple, but we tried anyway, and we started out mainly in the elementary schools. We had essay contests in which the child would, the 4th grader would write an essay about why my teeth are important, and the winners got books from the Bennington bookstore. We've done about 90 classroom presentations per year, so that's almost 200 classroom presentations in the elementary school and also the middle school. It's a lot of work, labor intensive. But the thing that we did next was that we went into Bennington Elementary. We worked with some very neat teachers there who were so enthusiastic. They were teachers of 2nd and 3rd graders. So we started this program, not this past school year that just ended, but the year before that, 2015, 2016. And we did the 2nd and 3rd graders, and then we followed those 2nd and 3rd graders when they became 3rd and 4th graders. So what we did was that we instituted a daily toothbrushing system after lunch every day, encouraged by these teachers. And we also did bi-monthly oral health presentations on such things as nutrition and toothbrushing and flossing and the process of what causes a tooth to decay. So we did a survey before, during, and after the program aimed at oral health habits. Questions such as, how often do you brush your teeth at home? And guess what was found? Who's got a guess? Dave Fredrickson.
That after your programs, it improved. After your programs, the number of brushings went up.
I wish that were the case, but it's not. We found that oral health habits did not change. So while this isn't a scientific study, we conclude that it's damn hard to change the habits of a second and third grader. And we chose those grades because we thought they would be the most malleable of anybody. A second or third grader, they're eager to learn, eager to please. Anyway, we looked at that as very labor intensive and not a good outcome. I wanted to switch gears now and talk about poverty in Bennington. You may know some of these statistics, but I found them worse than I thought. Rory reviewed our history as an organization. The Bennington Oral Health Coalition was part of the poverty work group that was started back in 2012. And it was started as a separate branch, I believe, because everybody who came to our poverty meetings said, boy, we got to do something about the people's teeth in town. I can remember when I came to town in 1974, that was one of the things that struck me. People's teeth are terrible in Bennington. So here's the statistic. The Bennington population living below poverty is what percent? I'm going to ask Tim.
I'll say 35.
Oh, too generous. It's 26.6%. And my data comes from a website called city-data.com. And I have seen other statistics that are a little less than 26, but that seems to be a fair number. You have to remember now that poverty is statistically defined by the federal government, and it's updated every year. So a family of four, for example, poverty level now is anything below $24,600. But that does not mean that the family of four who's earning $28,000 and is not in poverty is doing well. So that's why Tim's guess was higher than the official statistic. But here's even a more alarming one. This website also talked about children living below the poverty level. What do you think Bennington's percentage is of children living below poverty level? Take a guess. Well, it's 33%. So about 1/3 of our children in our school systems are living below the poverty level. So it's quite high in this community. Can we improve it? Yes, but not in the short term. Are people living in poverty more likely to have bad teeth? You bet your life they are. And the association is clear in the dental literature that if you live in poverty, you're much more likely to have poor teeth. And the reason is that a person or a family living in poverty has other things to worry about. I think that's what the reason is. You know, putting food on the table or paying the rent, for example. So I think something needs to happen. We have bad teeth in abundance, many negative effects on children. There's evidence that behavior is difficult to change, i.e. Bennington Elementary. And we found it difficult to reach low-income citizens when we had people who tested positive in our screenings. There's evidence that interventions requiring intensive labor are not sustainable. Sooner or later, our volunteers are going to run out of steam. So what can we possibly do? The answer is preventive dentistry. So what if you could reduce early childhood caries, that's the same as cavities, by 25% or 30%? That would be huge. What if there was already a proven method to do this? What if it didn't take an army of volunteers to do it? What if you could save a whole lot of money in the process? Well, there is such a scheme, and it's called community water fluoridation. Community water fluoridation offers all of these things. Nearly all the science supports it. It's got a 70-year history in the United States. First fluoridated community was 1945. At this point in time, 211 million people in the States are drinking fluoridated water from their system. That's 80% of those who do have public water. In Vermont, it's not quite so good. There's not a single town in Bennington County that has fluoridated water. So for 70 years, 200 million people, it's worked. It's proven, it's safe, it's effective, gives everyone benefit, but especially the low-income citizens. And we need to implement it. We can't change behavior very easily. We can't change poverty very easily, but we can prevent a whole lot of bad teeth with community water fluoridation. So I have some asks here of the MAU board, and that's another handout. And I have two handouts here. One is something from the American Dental Association. And the other is more personal for the board. So this is basically why we're here. We're asking of you and the entire supervisory union, actually. We're asking these things. We're asking you to become actively engaged in pushing this community water fluoridation project when it becomes a public issue again. C, we'd like you to appoint a member of your board to be a liaison to the Bennington Oral Health Coalition. And D, we're asking you each as individuals to become oral health champions, and we can send you an email that shows how you can easily do that. There's a great number of benefits if you become an oral health champion. The main one is that you will get our newsletter. And then Rory spoke to the other three. We hope you will support us to get our other projects completed. That would include the upcoming screening at the high school. We hope that you would see fit to put oral health in the health and wellness curriculum, which we attended this spring. And E, we would hope that you make sure that these Medicaid funds continue to support dental care at the middle school and the high school. Our tooth tutors and dental case managers have meant a lot to the kids that are in these schools, more than we could probably do ourselves. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Well, we're on a pretty tight agenda. Does anybody have any specific questions that they'd like to, any board member would like to ask? Well, we will certainly address those suggestions that you had for the MAU board, and I'll be in touch with you, Dick, on that. I'm sure we'll find a member of the board who's anxious to serve on that committee.
I'm sorry I couldn't get all that.
Well, we'll certainly consider those requests that you made of the board, and I will be sure to ask the board if we have a volunteer to serve on that, to serve on the oral health committee.
Yeah, I think you all need to talk over these asks before
Right.
you We aren't
Dick?
asking for a vote tonight.
Dick,
I think we've got one or two questions, Dick.
I assume all these bottles here don't have fluoridation, all these.
Most don't. Some do. You can buy them with fluoride in them, but most people don't. So having it in a community water system is the way to go because everybody gets benefit from it. And it's just worked out well for 70 years. There are studies, I think you're talking about as an alternative, using fluoridated bottled water if you choose to, or giving fluoride supplements to your child. Well, there's been studies that show that even though a fluoride drop might be prescribed for, or a fluoride pill, vitamin might be prescribed for a child, that it's oftentimes only about 25% of parents continue on in a way that's a daily dose. So.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? We'll be in touch. And thank you both for coming. We do appreciate it. Okay, we can move on then. Are there any other public comments? Fran?
Yeah, just want to follow up, this is probably more for the superintendent than anybody. There is a court case out there in Superior Court. The plaintiffs are Mary Goresh, Jean Connor, Jenny Jenkins, Lori Mulhern, Nancy Sanford, and Eileen Lazaro. Just want to know what the status of that is. This is from 2015, and it's taken up more than enough of your time and the board's time, so what is the status on that?
So if I understand correctly, it's, we submitted more written arguments, if I'm using the right term, last week. And the plaintiff has, I think, to the 26th of this month to respond to those. And beyond that status, I don't know. I believe we're asking for, a judge just to make the decision as opposed to actually going to court. I don't know if that's your understanding, Tim.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in court, but to a trial, it
And
would.
this is mainly on open meeting laws?
Open meeting, alleged open meeting violations, yeah.
I don't think, is my understanding after talking with our attorney on this, that there is not a disagreement in terms of the facts. It's the interpretation that is the problem.
Okay.
But it has been, you're absolutely right, Fran, it's been a long,
Yep.
I spent, was it 2 or 3 months, I get a letter from our attorney and have to answer it, but that's my understanding.
Okay, I just want to keep it out there so we know
Sure.
what's going on and what the superintendent has to deal with, so, anyway.
Well, it's not only the superintendent, taxpayers worry about things and dollars they have to pay. How long has this gone on and how much attorney time have we put into it?
I can't answer that accurately, but if Fran is right, and I'm sure he is, it dates back to 2015 or
I have it
so.
right here in front of me. so-
I've got a folder that thick. But all I can tell you is that we're following the procedure that's been outlined for us by our attorney, and, we're trying to play by the rules. Okay,
There was a stipulation to facts, and then we're submitting documents, and we had that deadline. I mean, it's been extended
Right.
a number of times, and it very well might happen again, so.
But I mean, to Nelson's thought, yeah, we need to know how much money has been spent on this issue, and any of your time and hours, and so people know.
We could, I could request
In the
from
future.
finance what,
In the future,
to
not
look,
now.
because our legal bills are often broken down by category, but it
Right.
wouldn't.
Okay.
We should be clear that we try to, as laymen, we try to follow the rules as closely as.
okay, we can.
I did find that email. We submitted our documents on June 16th, and the plaintiffs have until June 26th, no later than June 26th to reply. I mean, or, yeah, remaining support of the defendant will file a reply no later than June 26th.
All right, we can move on. If anybody would like more details on that, you can,
Aren't we the defendant?
Yeah, we're the defendant, yeah, so we've submitted some, there's
So we
obviously
have until
more.
the 26th to
Yeah,
Why?
and we do have an attorney that's been working on
Yeah.
this. since
Amanda
the-
Lafferty with Stitzel and Page.
Right. Okay, we can move on to finance then. We need a motion to accept
moved.
the treasury report, second to it.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody like to discuss anything? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good. Budget status report is for your information. We have an MAU tax anticipation note. As most of you know, we have to borrow money from the end of our fiscal year until we receive tax money, which is in November or something like that. And I think we're borrowing about $3.8 million, something like that.
It's 3.8 million and the interest rate is 1.75%.
Right, we do this every year, it's not something, so what we are going to do is pass around a document that we ask them, right, to sign. We need a motion to accept the, what do we call it? The
Tax petition.
anticipation note. Right, with People's United at the tax rate of 1.75%. Correct, in the amount of $3,800,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, do we need to have it read? or-
No, we don't, we can
Or waive the
Waive the
reading?
We can waive the reading, that's part of the motion.
Part of the motion?
Right.
This borrowing of money is something that the taxpayers vote on each year.
No, it's not a voting on it, we need the money to be able to pay our bills, because our fiscal year ends the last day of June.
But you don't have a.
We don't receive any tax money for this fiscal, the next,
I understand, but I know the town, I'll talk to the town council process. They usually have a line that says, that, well, the voters approved in anticipation of the revenue to borrow money. Until then, you don't do that?
I can't answer, I don't specifically remember. Renee, do you know?
I think it's a standard annual ballot article.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could, it could very well,
I'm just bringing it up because of all the issues we have.
Board meeting.
anyway, if there are no further questions, you'd like to pass it around?
I'll pass it around, there's 3 places to sign yours here.
Don't we have to vote on this?
Yes, we will.
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed or abstentions? Very good. We can then move on to the purchase lease of Chromebooks and carts for the high school and the middle school.
You got Frank Barnes here to
Frank?
discuss that.
Hi, you should have received this in your board packet. I put an RFP out for 900 Chromebooks, 600 to go to the middle school, 300 to go to the high school. This is already in their budget. It's the lease payment is in the budget lines that I included in the request to the board. We received 6 responses to the RFP. Actually, we received 7. I got one late yesterday, but it was after the deadline, and it was also the highest bid that came in, so it didn't matter. And I'm asking that you would approve leasing from CTL Corporation 900 Chromebooks and 12 charging carts for a cost of $171,588 total, to be paid annually at $61,716. And the reason that I'm asking to use this vendor is because it's the lowest bid. Vendor meets or exceeds all components of the RFP and strong service reputation from the company. Do you have any questions?
Is that above or below what we budgeted?
Excuse me?
We budgeted for this, right?
Yes. Yeah, there's a budget line for both at the high school and at the middle school.
Okay, the question is the proposed cost, is that above or below what we budgeted?
Below.
Okay. I think you said that, but I didn't catch it.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? I'll take a motion. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second to it? Okay, I want to be sure this is a 3-year lease for 900 Chromebooks and carts or whatever else
Cards
goes
and
along.
licenses are included, yes.
Right.
And this will actually, I'd like to make a note that this would actually put the high school finally into a one-to-one scenario with devices, which is the last school that we have to do that for, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Now, is there a maintenance part of this too? In other words, when we have a lease like this, do they supply any sort of management of those 900 Chromebooks?
With Chromebooks, because the cost is pretty low compared to most technologies, it doesn't make sense to purchase the additional warranty. It comes with a 1-year warranty. We've been able to fix pretty much everything that comes through in Chromebooks. It's a simple machine. Our tech staff is real good at taking care of anything that goes wrong with it.
So the answer is no, we don't
No.
have any sort of long-term warranty or service program with it.
Nothing more than the original warranty, manufacturer
Are there any
warranty.
other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good,
Thank you so much.
thank you. And we have we've talked about this before, it's
Yeah,
been clear.
this is a reclassification. In the consent agenda is a nomination for a person to be the security officer. That person is currently classified as intensive special needs specialist, so we're asking you need to create the position of security officer first, so that's what this vote is, so that you can carry out the nomination. So a reclassification is what we're asking for.
And we checked with Human Relations, and Ed at the time, when we talked about this, said it did not have to be posted because we're simply enhancing a position that the person already
And
holds.
reclassifying a position.
And reclassifying it, so it does not have to be. So this is not to hire him, it's just to do what?
To create the position of security officer. You already have one.
Okay, so we're creating a position of a security officer. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good. Consent agenda?
Move it.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion on any of the items on the consent agenda?
Question,
Yes.
is summer school to make up failures?
Yes.
Any other questions? Dave, you look like you want to say something. Okay. Any other, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Okay, we can move on then. Policies, Leon had to leave. Does anybody, who else goes to the policy meeting?
I was there as well.
Good. Would you like to just go over these for this?
Just quickly, the fixed asset policy, I can't actually speak much to. There were others on the committee that understood it a lot better than I did and understood that this was the fairly standard procedure for it, and that's why. And it's essentially an amendment putting many of the regs, I believe, into the regs and outside of policy, so it's essentially cutting it down. The travel reimbursement and the prevention of conflict of interest in procurement, those are actually fairly self-explanatory if you've read them. There's not much more to go into.
Okay, and does anybody want any further explanation of those 3 warnings?
Question.
Dave? Yes.
Give me an example of a travel reimbursement, please.
Mileage,
To go to what?
Hotel, motel?
conference, hotel, if you're sending someone to a conference overnight, for the part of the state, so employees can, per the contract, they are entitled to reimbursement at the IRS rate.
So does that, if they travel to, say, a class at,
If they're taking a course that we reimburse them for, then travel is not reimbursed for that.
Thank you.
If we send them to a conference, and remember, they just don't submit their mileage, there is a pre-approval form first that comes through that we approve. estimate what their costs will be in that pre-approval form. It's signed off by typically their building principal, and then depending on what they're going to, Director of Curriculum Instruction, Assistant Superintendent, or myself.
Are there any other questions on the 3 warnings? I just refresh my memory how this goes. We have a warning and then we have an adoption, or do we have something
Yes.
in between?
Them an adoption. Okay, first warn it, and then the next meeting you adopt it.
You adopt it.
If
Okay.
there's any,
So if anybody would spend the time reading it over and has something to bring up that they would like excluded or added to any of those 3, they should bring it to the attention of members of the policy committee so that can be addressed. Bob, would that be about right, or?
I think that's obviously something that could be done, but also they could mention it in public comments when it's on the agenda for adoption.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. I don't know, do we have a motion? Richard, do we have a motion? Even a motion, then why don't we take all 3? Policy 1100, 4121, 3115.
I move that we,
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good. Administrators report. Why don't we start? Tim's first in line there.
Just a couple of updates. It's a busy, week at the schools as we're wrapping up the end of the year. Monday, we were able to have class awards during the school day, grades 6 through 8. We had a nice turnout from the community for events that were running from 8 to 11 in the morning and on an extremely humid morning. I was very impressed with the crowd. Students were recognized for academic achievement and improvement over the course of the year. It was a nice ceremony. On Tuesday, yesterday was the busy day. We had staff picnic in the morning to recognize years of service, and for folks who would be retiring. We have 3 retirees this year. I think the board is familiar. Ms. Coleman's retiring as the school nurse. Patricia Johnson is leaving us as counselor, and Joni Lamprin is leaving us as a custodian. All of those positions have been filled in anticipation for next year, but it was a nice send-off for them. And then last night we had 8th grade celebration. We dodged a bullet. Not literally. The rain came in as the ceremony was warming up. I want to thank Superintendent Mr. Colkeen for coming in and sitting with us, and the board members, Mr. Durfee and Tim. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come. It was a good ceremony. I was proud of the kids. I want to thank also the parents who organized the dance and party that took place afterwards. It's always a nice thing to see 8th graders who started out with 6th graders wearing ties and dresses and looking very much the young adults they are, ready to go off to the high school. So it was a nice evening. Today is the first day of SVSU-wide professional development. Teachers met in this space today. We were talking about student achievement data in anticipation to the report that will be presented to the board next September and October. And then we have department meeting plans for Thursday and Friday, so we will be busy. And the building is also busy because Molly Stark Elementary staff have joined us, and they are working busily at the front of the building as we transition to the summer program. Summer school will be here, the Mosaic Summer Program, which we're still offering for kids, and a wide variety of extended services for the elementary schools will be moving in as well. The building will be very busy, and it should be fun. It won't be a quiet place for sure.
Very good. Thank you, Tim. Any questions of Tim? Brenda?
Okay, we are also offering summer school this summer in English, math, social studies, science, and physical education. As grades are finalized, counselors are reaching out to all students who have lost credit during this year due to either low grades or absences. Just a reminder, registration forms are due July 8th. The summer program runs from July 10th through July 28th from 8 to 11:30 daily. There is a small cost for the program, but there are scholarships available. So all students who need to come. We also honored our faculty this week at a faculty luncheon on Monday. and honored our people who are retiring and who also for years of service. And the high school has 102 faculty and 65 staff, and of those, 58 serve as coaches or club or activity advisors, many in more than one of those capacities. So we honored our faculty on Monday. On Tuesday, people continued to get their grades ready, and we got ready to host Ben L., who was joining us for the 3 days of professional development, and all of the SVSU paraeducators. Our first professional development day, we got to work with Frank Barnes, and all of our teachers received Chromebook training, and many received training in Google Classroom that we're going to be using next year. And departments had an opportunity to do the work on prioritizing standards that they need to do to get ready for proficiency-based learning. So we really thank you for these 3 days. It's work that is very, very important, and the opportunity to come together as a full faculty and staff to begin this work together is just very much greatly appreciated. I thought it might be fun to do statistics tonight. And so if you look at the last academic year, our enrollment hovered around 890, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. 450 students made the honor roll. 418 participated in athletics. 315 students participated in after-school activities or clubs. Things like Student Senate, things like Gamers Clubs. 514 of our students took CDC classes. 155 students in grades 9 through 12 received academic excellence or academic merit awards at our awards nights this year. We had 7 foreign exchange students representing the Netherlands, Georgia, Egypt, Italy, South Korea, and Spain. And our students over the course of the year had opportunities to participate in Model UN, our career fair, the reality fair, the college fair, sophomore summit, numerous college and band concerts, including the Beatles concert that joined us with a school in New Jersey for a truly wonderful day and wonderful evening of Beatles music, and numerous plays. And again, we wouldn't be able to do this without the huge participation of our faculty and staff. We graduated 198 seniors outside, and Paul Dansereau and Spencer Sweet and I spent 3 days basically glued to the weather report because it looked for a while like that was not going to be possible, but it was. It was a great graduation, and as always, the board presence there is part of what makes it special. Of those 198 who graduated, 70% are headed to a 2- or 4-year college, 4% intend to pursue opportunities in the military, and 27% plan to work full-time. And there's a handful of students that are planning to take a gap year and then decide where they're headed. So I thought it would just be fun to look at the kind of a year in the life of a high school through numbers, so I wanted to report that tonight. I would also like to introduce the MAUHS student representative to the board for the next year, Skylar Hoyt. This is Skylar. Skylar is returning from a decathlon in Burlington where he was ranked 12 out of 98? 92. Out of 92. So he is one of those students who is active, and we look forward to having his insights on the board.
Thank you. Welcome. Have you talked with your predecessor?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
She can certainly fill you in on what is expected, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Sophia placed 34 in the decathlon.
Well, that certainly is impressive. But I think this board is always anxious to hear from students, and we certainly take what you say seriously. So feel free to speak up, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, we can go down. Student representative. Dave.
Would you like me to go on
Well,
that?
but either one, you're sitting together.
That's right.
Dave is chair.
We try
and
not to do that.
You work it out.
We talked about eligibility, discussed various concerns. I thought Tim did a nice job of letting everybody know all the various follow-ups they do. We also talked about ticket prices for plays and games, and there might be some changes on ticket prices for plays. If there are any specific questions, I could try to answer them.
Anybody have any questions? Dave, would you like to add anything, or Durfee?
I think Dave covered it pretty well.
Okay, good. Good. All right, we can move on then to the superintendent's report.
Good evening. I'll try not to repeat everything you're going to say. Everyone said thank you for inviting me for graduation. I enjoyed both ceremonies. It's always a proud moment for the school, and my contact with students is often limited in dealing more with personnel issues, so it reminds me that I am at heart an educator, so thank you. I also want to thank Mr. Payne and the middle school staff for, as he mentioned, for creating a summer home for the Bennington School District. I know that it particularly impacts Paul and his staff up here to try and clean a building after a school year and then accommodate the school, particularly for these 3 days, and then the extended year program coming into here. So it certainly solved a problem for the BSD School District with 3 schools that, effective today, are off limits to our staff and have become construction sites for the rest of the summer, and we'll be done in time for the opening of school, I'm sure. So we hope. We're in a rush right before this meeting with Director of Finance and Operations, Renee Gordon, and our Acting Director of HR, Nick Gott, because House Bill 542 is out there. Give me a minute to, I believe you all got an email, whether you've seen it, you got it around 5 o'clock today from the Vermont School Board Association. This is a compromise bill, amendment bill to address the cuts that the governor wants in the state budget to make up for savings in health care. And if you remember, we had those special meetings on whether we should be riffing staff or can we just hold off and see what happens. So, you know, we were hoping at that time it was going to be a week. It turned out to be longer. And we, as you saw, we did hire some staff tonight. What we've been doing is identifying what we think, how much money we might have to cut, if any, and ensure that there are enough open positions at each, because not everyone's getting hired now, so we'll be over the summer in case we do have to make those cuts so that we have that option. So it by August, if this, by the way, the latest word I got in the beginning of this meeting is the House has passed this bill this evening, and it is in the Senate right now. Or, you know, I don't have a real update that says that happens. So we will obviously pull this apart tomorrow. We've been in contact with some of our legislators who've been very forthcoming with information to us as this runs through the floor, and we've been giving out some of our impact. We settled contract negotiations with the teachers last week, and that involves health insurance plan, change in health insurance plan. This bill has what they call a model health plan, one plan. We've agreed to 4 plans with different varying levels of savings, those plans. So we need to review what that will, any impact. Right now, it seems like we might be in a good position with the teaching staff, and I consulted with Steve Stitzel late today, and he's in agreement with that, that it looks like maybe district-wide, maybe $140,000 reduction that we might need to do as opposed to $430,000 that we thought at one point. But the complication is the sports staff, which is almost 200 employees, if I'm correct, their negotiations are still going on, and that's tomorrow night. So this bill has negotiations that have completed or have tentative agreements are kind of exempt from the first year on this, if I understand, but the deadline is today. So we will not have a tentative agreement for our support staff, so that'll have to be worked out tomorrow night. Well, like I said, this is all just breaking, so we'll continue to monitor it. The other thing I want to touch about is Act 46. That next meeting is going to be a week from tomorrow, next Thursday, the 29th. And I think we had a good meeting, good discussion last week. This meeting with our consultant, we voted to hire the consultant, which is Dan French. Many of you may know him from when he was superintendent of Manchester, and he's also successfully worked on 2 consolidation plans. There's probably 2 options that we're looking at if we can pursue any, and that could result in maybe a reduction down to 3 boards or 4 boards. Or none of this will happen. We don't know if we can get a consensus on this, because what the models would be, as you know, North Bennington has a different grade configuration. They have school choice during, they're non-operating during those lower grades, so the law prevents us to do just a straight merger and include them. So the option could be that, so that they can maintain their school choice option for elementary grades. Prudential Committee non-operating remains intact. There is a pre-K through 12 modified union, unified school district, which is like what Mount Anthony is, but it'd be pre-K through 12. That would be the second district. And because there's 2 districts, there would still need to be an SU, because they have to be, that independent non-operating district has to be affiliated with an LEA. So that would be 3, and the other model that was discussed and looked at would be a unified elementary school district. Mount Anthony stays the way it is. North Bennington stays the way it is, and then there is still an SU board. That might be a more difficult one to achieve, but that's what will be talked about specifically next Thursday. Will be the work plan for a series of 4 meetings, setting the dates for those meetings, and looking, defining what the options. Some of this sounds pretty familiar to those of you who have been down this road before, but on the agenda for the first work session is the review of the Act 46 policy objectives and Act 49 revisions, review the draft work plan, make any adjustments as necessary, kind of set dates, trying to get everybody, just trying to get next Thursday's meeting set this time of year with all people from different committees, and getting a quorum is difficult. And then to start work on policy objectives, pros and cons from an educational perspective, and it's all outlined in that. So that's all I have, other than you'll note in the end I need an executive session with the board, and so I'll save the rest of my comments for there. Thank you.
Very good. Just a very brief report. I'd like to echo what Jim has said. We're very appreciative of the cooperation that developed between the Teachers Association and the boards in formulating a contract. It was, we certainly had our differences, and not everybody got what they wanted, but it was they were productive meetings, and I thought the general attitude of them was certainly worth noting. Fran and Nelson spent a lot of time going to all those meetings, and the teachers have approved the contract by a large majority. The boards have not signed the contract yet, and what we generally do, Jim, is
Once Steve Sitzel gives us the okay that all the language is in order, and we also hear back that, from Norm Bartlett, from teachers that we're all in agreement, we will do a carousel board meeting. Some of you that have been around know what that is. We will most likely here at the middle school cafeteria have open meetings simultaneously of all boards, do the presentation on it, and then each board will then vote at their own individual meeting ongoing at the same time. So we don't have a date for that yet,
No,
because we're still waiting for Steve's approval.
Right, and once we have language that we are 100% sure on, we can go into more detail about some of the provisions of the contract, but,
Because literally, some of the agreements are still on handwritten notes and being, updated to the contract.
we
so.
certainly have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
But it's great. It is a 2-year contract. One of the reasons that it is a 2-year contract is that we have a great deal, or there is a great deal, uncertainty about what's going to happen to health insurance. And we didn't want to find ourselves in a position where we couldn't change the way that we're looking at health insurance program that we have right now.
It actually proved to be, insightful on our part, because the bill that the House proposed, any contracts are expiring in 2 years at 2019, so a 3-year, to be compliant with their contract model plan, anything more than 2 years. We don't know what the Senate will do, but that's where it sits right now.
So, once we get a document prepared, copies will be available at central office. We have no meeting scheduled for July. That's traditional. If something comes up, we have this carousel or whatever it would be that we feel it's appropriate to schedule a meeting, you'll be notified well in advance. So our next meeting would be the third Wednesday in August. Third Wednesday in August. And, I'll try to keep you updated as we have more information concerning the state.
August 16th.
16th, that I feel is.
That's Bennington Battle Day.
What?
That's Bennington Battle Day, so we might be looking, yeah.
Anyway, we've got a little, we've got a little time on that. Any questions? Dave, you had a comment? Yes.
Yes, I'd like to suggest we send letters of thanks, congratulations, good job, etc. to, Lynn Sweet of the music department, the Beatles exchange program, Judy Estes, the yearbook, her attention to detail. Almost every event that Mount Anthony has, you see her there taking pictures for the yearbook. Steve Coggeshell, girls tennis, number 2 seed, another fine season. Brian Kuhn, wrestling, continued at Mount Anthony's excellence in wrestling. Whitney Burke, girls lacrosse, 1 loss, it was in the finals. Bruce Smith, Nordic skiing, thanks, he's retiring, we'll miss you. And Katie Contrada, softball, 4 years in the finals, state champs, undefeated in Vermont, etc.
Certainly is as well. How would you propose doing that?
I thought that someone wrote them.
We have a clerk.
We have a clerk.
But what generally happens is that you, being more familiar with this than some of us would be, if you would give him sort of an outline of
Okay.
what should be said. Is that agreeable the same way we did it before?
Sure, that'll work.
That'll work. So if
We'll
you
work
would-
that out.
If you would give him, what those people should be congratulated for.
Yep.
Compose a letter.
Kevin, you need some assistance in copying whatever, contact Mary Lee, and we'll be glad to help you out. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So you want a motion on that?
Yes, please.
Have a motion? Very good. Have a second?
Second.
Richard, did you get those names?
I'll get them.
Okay, get them from him, and they'll be included. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Very good. I ask for a motion to go into executive session, board only,
Second.
and we will, all in favor?
Can the
We will.
superintendent come?
Yes, the superintendent can't. Renee, did you have something you wanted to bring up?
Just wondering where the warrants are.
Oh.
They're right here.
I never saw that.
Oh, so I'm supposed to sign this?
All has to be signed. Right, we will not be coming back into open session.
That's it? Page one?
Well, you have to come back to adjourn.
Well, to adjourn, but we'll,
But then it'll be all, be no decision.
They have to.
okay.
Did you vote?
All in favor, signify by saying
signature.
aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Why don't we plan to meet?